guys, welcome back to the guest channel. I'm Lexi, and on this content I talk about budgeting, planning, goal setting, all that good stuff, but from a slightly different perspective, which is that of a person who has MS, multiple sclerosis. And so I kind of want to share how I'm still able to kind of plan, set goals and objectives with a fairly unpredictable chronic illness. So if you're interested in that, then do subscribe. And in today's video, I kind of wanted to continue on from the topic of last Wednesday's video, which is my career and how it has been impacted by MS. So in the last video, I talked about how it's impacted my career so far. And spoiler alert, it's already had quite a significant impact already, obviously, due to the nature of my symptoms, which were eyesight issues mainly, but also how in the long run it's going to impact it. So I do highly encourage you to watch the last video just for context, but to kind of pick back up what I was saying is that basically today my illness is pretty stable. My MRI scans don't seem to show new lesions coming up, but I still have quite a lot of damage to my optic nerves from previous attacks. And so today I do have a disability. I have a fairly low visual acuity in my right eye at the moment, and so I already had to switch positions within the company I'm working at because I couldn't work on Excel spreadsheets all day anymore. So I'm still working on computer screens now, but in the long term I definitely feel like with my eyesight issues I need to stop completely, because it is something that is very tiring for my eyes. And while it's been getting a little bit better, I would say in the past couple months, honestly some months it's very hard. And I end the day like at 5 p.m. like I'm experiencing very strenuous eye strain, like very bad eye strain, very bad eye fatigue. Like sometimes I just need to close my eyes. I close my eyes when I take the subway from work because I just can't take like the visual stimulation anymore. So sometimes it's gotten pretty bad. I feel like in the past couple months, crossing my fingers, it's been better, but overall it's something that's here to stay. It's a disability, and so I do definitely feel like I will be much happier and feel a lot better if I just don't work on a computer screen. So I have officially decided to completely change career paths. I'm actually studying and going back to school to become a psychologist. Psychology is something I've always been interested in, and I did have to think about a career path that would be suited to my specific needs, which is not having a computer screen in front of you all day. But also, what if I get a worse disability than I already have? What if I go completely blind? Because honestly at one point I thought that I might go blind in my right eye, and like my right eye is the one that's still affected by a disability, but the eyesight in my left eye was also impacted at the time when I was first diagnosed. Both of my eyes were impacted. So MS is fairly unpredictable. The treatments are obviously a lot better today than they were a few years ago, but you can really never be sure of anything. Like my first attacks were kind of freak attacks, because usually people don't necessarily have a disability from their first attack, and I kind of unfortunately did. So it's not the worst disability in the world, obviously, but it was still a pretty rough, pretty severe first attack for me. So there's no guarantee that I won't have problems further down the line, whether that be becoming blind or being in a wheelchair or whatever the case may be. I figured that being a psychologist was something I could do even if I was in a wheelchair or if I was blind. So that was something I took into consideration before really committing to changing career paths. And also what I did think about was being able to have more control over my schedule. So I do have a lot more medical appointments now than I ever did before, obviously. And so being able to, go to appointments whenever, and usually you're going to see specialists, so you have to book the appointments month in advance, and it's usually during the work week. They don't have, a lot of flexibility when it comes to that. So being able to take them whenever you want, and also being able to finish like at 5 p.m. at the latest, which in France is fairly early. Like it's not the typical end of your workday. Like prior to having MS, I used to finish at like closer to 7 to 8 p.m. So 5 p.m. is like a big downgrade from that. Just being able to be my own boss, control my own hours is something that is very appealing to me. And so yeah, so that's what I decided to do. So in the long run, I would say that things I'm really mindful of are, what if I have a further disability? And then how do I manage my symptoms on a daily basis? So they're not terrible, but they could get worse, I guess. The fatigue or tiredness maybe gets worse with age. I don't really know. At this point, now that I've kind of downsized my work hours, it's feeling pretty okay. But I do notice that if I have a period that's kind of very stressful, very busy, where I do have a lot going on and I'm very tired because I work longer hours than usual, then I take longer to recuperate from that than I used to. So you could say I'm just getting old, but honestly I'm still just 26, and really do see a difference compared to prior to having MS. So I do think there is like I do think I really have to be mindful of managing my tiredness, because I do tend to feel it right away when I'm too tired and stuff, and it does get a little bit harder, and I can have some aches and stuff. Nothing dramatic, but it's kind of uncomfortable, and I prefer not finishing every day in that state. So I think like just being mindful of that and having a little bit of flexibility is something that for me is very important. And regarding stress, I have been told that I should really avoid it. Like it's kind of been known to be linked to having more attacks and stuff. I don't know that I've personally really noticed a correlation between phases where I have a little bit more symptoms than usual and phases where it's pretty stressful. So I can say I see a direct impact, but we all kind of know at this point that stress is bad for your body in huge quantities. So I know that I should definitely limit that. And so yeah, I do think like as a psychologist, I won't have as much pressure as when you're a consultant and working for clients and working for like 10 different bosses, kind of like what I'm doing right now. So I do think in the long run, being my own boss, having a job that is not too stressful, like where there's not too much urgency or going on, and where I can kind of schedule things in and out, where I can kind of control my work hours, I think that's what would be best suited for me. And that's also kind of disability proof, as much as possible. So yeah, I know that these videos were kind of rambly, but that's just because it's kind of my first time opening up like that about this topic, so I'm not entirely sure how to structure them. But I still hope that you found these videos interesting, and if you did, please subscribe and let me know down below if you have any questions regarding what it's like to live with MS or work with MS or any kind of thing like that. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.